Hey there guys, gals, non-binary pals, ad blockers online, and welcome back to my Random Ruminations 3.0, the one with a review. So last week I got this. It's the Hori mini Gamepad. It is a third-party PS4 game controller, and I have things to say about this. But first of all, the packaging. It's all cardboard. It's all recyclable. I like that tech companies are doing this because, not having a burnt out husk of a world in 30 years is a really nice idea. But anyway, we'll leave that side of things to one side. Packaging is perfectly fine, perfectly serviceable. It's good and protective. There was not a single mark on this when I got it. Partially that's down to the courier. Partially it's just down to the fact that it's good packaging. So, done. Let's get to the main event. It is tiny. I mean, seriously small. It kind of, in a weird way, reminds me of the original NES controller, but without those horrible sharp corners that make you feel like you were slowly impaling your hands on something. This is nicely rounded. It's nicely shaped. It's very comfortable in the hands. I have to say it's extremely comfortable in the hands. It may be the most comfortable controller that I've ever used. Now bear in mind, this is for my personal experience, but it is incredibly comfortable. The casing is really good solid plastic. There is no give in it whatsoever. It is really tough, and the coloring is actually impregnated plastic, so it's not going to rub off. So even if you put a deep scratch in it, the scratch is going to be red the whole way down, which coming from my gold Xbox One controller that had the gold peel off after about 2 weeks. Yeah, that's a good thing. Although I didn't want a gold one in the first place, I wanted a silver one, but whatever. Let's get on to the buttons. Shoulder buttons. The R2 and L2 are perfectly fine. They're a little bit clicky, and they're quite pleasant to use. They don't have the throttle effect of the DualShock 4, but that's hardly unexpected considering this cost me £25 and it would normally have cost me 30. It's dirt cheap. The L1 and R2 are a little bit gummy, but not unpleasantly so. The click on them is pretty solid. You know you've clicked them. You don't double check. You don't double think yourself when you're actually using them. They do have one slight thing. I don't know if I can get this on screen, but they do kind of rock a little bit. Now, I think this is down to the fact that the button isn't particularly long and there isn't a tight channel for it to run down. Now, I do in the long run intend to mod the fuck out of this. And I intend to put in channels myself if it's possible to make it so that it can only slide straight. That should get away with that. Should eliminate the gumminess, which is actually entirely down to that rocking factor. The D-pad is a tiny bit gummy. Again, you're going to hear that word a couple more times, but it is bang on par with the Xbox 360 D-pad. So really, it's not bad at all. You know you've clicked it. You don't worry that you might accidentally have not pressed the button because you know you have. So it's not really a big issue, but it's there. It's a tiny bit gummy, but personally I kind of like it. Again, that's me. The face button, these buttons. So this replaces your trackpad, sort of. We'll get to that. It's basically just a button. Share, options, your PlayStation button is up here instead of down here, and there's a reason for that. And these buttons, they're a very tactile rubber. I'm finding it very hard to think of something that has a similar rubber on it, but it's very tactile. It's very comfortable. It's going to be pretty hard wearing. I think it's actually a rubberized plastic rather than a rubber, but it's quite nice, and I like it. I also like that the trackpad isn't there. It's just a button because I hate the trackpad on the DualShock 4. I actually ignore it as much as possible. But this does have a trackpad. The button down here is the TP button. Trackpad. You hold that down and use a stick. It gives you your gesture controls. What more do you want? Seriously. It gives you all the benefits of a trackpad without having to use a trackpad. Other thing it doesn't have, light on the back. Oh yes. Oh yes. No light on the back. And I know people are going to say in the comments, yeah, but that light is there so you can tell which player is which. We used to do that in the past without buttons. Do you know how we did it? If we couldn't see where the cable went in, we moved the controller to figure out who we controlled. Engage the brain, people. Control buttons, fine. There, if you've used a controller in the last 10 years, you know exactly what these feel like. They feel identical to the DualShock 4 buttons for me. And I mean identical, and they've a nice little click to them. I like it. The sticks are a little bit of an oddity to me. They're kind of a halfway house between a DualShock 4 and a DualShock 3. To me. Now, I could be wrong I don't think I'm wrong in that these are not standard standard DualShock 4 sticks. I could be wrong about that, and I am fine with being corrected on that. But feeling wise, they're for me somewhere between the two, and that is perfectly fine. DualShock 3 I didn't like. The DualShock 4 I love, and actually these I love. So I'm starting to think that it was the feeling of the DualShock 3 sticks that I didn't like. Big surprise. Now, if I have one little complaint with these, it's that they're a little bit close together. I typically rest my thumb there on a stick, so my thumbs bang off each other constantly. But I'm gradually training myself to put my thumbs further down. I really should anyway, but you know. So that's all that. What else is there? There's only one other thing, and that is the cable. It's a big motherfucking cable. I mean, this is about 7 foot long, so it's you know, it's a good 2 meter cable. It's not braided. It was never going to be braided. Come on, it's a 30 pounds gamepad. It's also permanently affixed. That could become a problem in the distant future, but I kind of doubt it, because it's pretty decent quality. I haven't opened this up yet. If I find anything out of the ordinary inside it, I will do a follow-up video, but really I don't think there's going to be anything extraordinary in this. Who is it for? Kids, first of all. If you have children in your life and you don't want them making shit of your DualShock 4, and in fact the DualShock 4 is too big for their hands, this is your friend and theirs. It's cheap enough that if they make shit of it, you're not going to care. But it's also tough enough that they probably won't be able to make shit of it. I mean, it's seriously tough. People who have joint problems will find this much easier to use. Seriously. I have joint problems in my hands, and I find this so much easier to use. It even overcomes one of my... I love the DualShock 4, but one of my problems with the DualShock 4 is this thumb gives me issues when I'm using the stick. That's why I typically prefer the Xbox layout. And you can see why. It's the difference in spread. And out here hurts after a while. Up here doesn't. But this is small enough that the spread is just little enough that it doesn't cause me a lot of pain. Can't complain about that. This would be an ideal backup controller. So your DualShock 4 finally dies, which, let's face it, they all are going to die in the end. Or your battery dies out. This is a perfectly good, perfectly serviceable backup. It works. It works fine. I have spent about 25 hours playing with this in the last week. A mixture of games from Horizon Zero Dawn to Final Fantasy 15 to Warframe to Doom to Wolfenstein. It didn't put a foot wrong. It didn't. It took a little getting used to because of the size difference, but as soon as my brain clicked on that, it was just as usable as the DualShock 4 for me, and far more usable than the 360 controller would have been. Xbox One controller and kind of maybe not. I'm not entirely sure, but it's not bad. It is really not a bad controller. Now, caveat: in order to get this working with your PC, you're going to have to use a program like Input Mapper or Better DS4. It does not come supported. It does not come out of the box with PC support. It's a little annoying, but you know what? It's a minor complaint. And that's it. So, I'll be back again soon with something. In the meantime, be good, have a great day, fuck YouTube, and bye for now.